my name is Chris Tabron. Welcome to my humble studio, Rumours, aka where I store all of my life savings. I want to show you a little bit of how I have the room set up. Where we are right now is what I would call kind of production and writing land. It's where I start a lot of records, sometimes where I finish a lot of records, where my assistant is printing stems or passes for mixes or things to send off to mastering. Everything is always plugged in and ready to go. The MIDI is all connected, so you can run MIDI from any device to any other that you want. Of course, it's all clocked off of Pro Tools or Ableton, and all the synths kind of go into the mixer, which goes into the Apollo interface. It's really just an ergonomic issue, and to be able to not have to miss an idea when we're trying to jam out something or to write, or you want to be fast, but you also want it to be comfortable. Another thing that I do for vocals in terms of gear set up on the desk here are the Hardy M1s. So I use the Hardys. Most of the time I'll use the 47 or 414. I'll talk about the 47 in a second. And the distressor is it's my Swiss Army knife compressor. I can make it sound like 5 different compressors, and that's why I use it. Avalon 737 is a polarizing device, I think, but I kind of came up using them. And at one point, this was the only pro thing that I had, so it's also a nostalgia piece here as well. I've actually recorded drums here quite a bit. I think, the type of drums that I play, I don't hit very hard, and I don't hit a lot of cymbals, so I can kind of get away with it. But also, I don't use very many mics. Also, it's probably one of my favorite drum kits. It's a 68 Ludwig downbeat kit. This is probably one of the coolest surprises of gear that I've ever bought. This is a U47. I'm sure many of you have seen this before. Telefunken badge. I found out after I purchased it that it is actually the 47 that you see in the photo here, and for those of you playing along at home, that is in fact Little Richard. I got goosebumps when I found that out. Who knows what he recorded on it, but it was legitimately his mic. It's been authenticated, and the cool thing is it's not just a showpiece, it sounds phenomenal, and I've maintained it. Let's just hope that the tube lasts forever and ever. This is a piece that I'll probably never ever get rid of. I got this from Xander from Passion Pit, shout out to him, when I was living in LA. I don't know how many green sparkle whirlies there are in the world. Probably too many if you ask some people, but I like it. He sold it to me for a song because I think he was self-conscious about it being green sparkle, and he did it himself. I love it, it sounds great, and it's probably where, between this and a guitar, is probably where I start most song ideas, because it's just a really inspiring keyboard. So this is mixing land, where certainly the life savings exists. The way I have this set up and why I have this set up is basically, I'm in New York City. Buildings get bought and sold all the time. I've been in the position where I've done a full build out before, and then the building gets sold, and then I have to leave fixtures and floated floors and hung ceilings, and you end up losing money. So a very good friend of mine, Dave Kutch, told me about the attack wall from ASC, the tube traps, years ago, and I haven't looked back ever since. These really take the room out of the equation. Also, a good friend of mine, Rory, helped design this, so the room sounds really good. It's versatile, but I also feel like not only can I work in a good mixing environment that sounds good, but I also have daylight, and I also can go over there and work on something else or print stems for something, or I can watch something in the lounge and I feel like I'm kind of at home and I'm inspired, and I don't have to feel like I'm completely isolated from the world, or I'm completely trying to replicate a environment that doesn't really exist anywhere else. So I'm super fortunate to have PMC IB2 SAs, which are my favorite speakers that they make, period. I also have Proax and an Oratone here. One thing about the way that I work, which is obviously hybrid, I want it to be hybrid, but I also want it to be flexible. So all the gear that you see, I of course use, but every time I'm sending the mix to the client, before I send it to them, the gear is committed. It's printed into Pro Tools, which means that I don't have to be sitting here to make adjustments. So I get to work the way that I want to work, but I can be sitting over there, or I can be sitting in Los Angeles on a laptop and doing quick changes, or my assistant can be doing things as well. So that's another reasons that I have things set up in a modular way. I like to have equipment that can achieve different results, and I can use equipment for different purposes. I can take my 1073s out on a writing session. I can use the CL1B over there if I want. Basically, the way that I like to work is I don't valorize the gear for the sake of the gear. If it can't serve more than one purpose, it's got to go. However, there are a few things that I am pretty attached to that I think are pretty special. The first one is this ITI parametric EQ. I doubt that if you're watching this that you've seen more than two in your life. They're very, very rare. When Burgess McNeil and George Massenburg were basically inventing the parametric EQ together, they had these prototype. These are the brass faceplate versions. I've only seen three. This is the third one. Tony Maserati has one, I think still. The other's at Sunset Sound. They sound amazing. It's probably my favorite EQ for vocals, and I haven't changed the settings in quite some time. Another piece of gear that I really like, my probably second favorite preamp next to the Hardys, is the 1073. Maybe you've heard of those before. I don't know. I feel like I'm the only one that knows about them. These were Pete Townsend, so that's pretty special, I suppose. I have them really on a bus when I'm mixing. All my vocals go through them. Don't EQ, I just have it go through the transformers, and I'm riding any volume automation into them the way that I have them patched, so that if I get louder on a vocal ride, it's also getting more saturation, and it's, I think, sounding a bit more exciting. Of course, there's the tried and true time-tested oblique strategies deck from Brian Eno and Peter Schmidt. And just for you sticking along with this video, always first steps. So I think you know what that means, and that's how Grammys are won. POV, you're sitting, listening to a mix that I'm doing for you, I hope. Or maybe you're scrolling on Instagram while I'm trying to make the reverb on the second chair violins bloom in a very euphonic way and you're not even caring. Well, maybe you want to play with some pedals. What I do is I have these here. It kind of changes in configurations over the months, but usually this is kind of the way it lands. I have this usually off of Ascend in Pro Tools, and I use the reamp box for that. I'll have the artist just like, you know, mess with the modulation on the Mogerfoger, or like, let's experiment, and we'll just loop record it and get something cool and do some crossfades, and you get something that feels more inspired and more real time, and it makes the artist feel like they're a part of it, which they are. It makes them put their phone down for a little bit, which is great. And also, it's kind of one of those things that's like a benefit of being in the studio with someone. You get to try something real time and add a little bit of extra to a mix that maybe you wouldn't be able to do remotely. Okay, hands down, probably the rarest thing that I own, and most people don't even know it exists, is the remote for the AMS RMX16 reverb. I also have the actual reverb. When I bought this from Dream Hire, I didn't know that this remote existed. It has cutting edge technology of nickel cadmium rechargeable batteries in it. And I thought it was so cool to have it hooked up and have the remote on my desk for a couple months. And then I realized it's way more annoying to use this than to just reach over 18 inches and just type in the program that you want on the AMS. And it has the old school label makers that are bumpy. And it says, please ensure remote unit is switched off because the battery life is probably about 45 seconds. Last but not least, let's take a little journey into the lounge here. I would say as many songs get written or at least started here as they do over in the writing area. This is the sort of living room zone. This is the lynch. This is where I have all my meetings. This is where artists feel safe, and there's like nice light and a little turntable. We can have little DJ parties and guitars and things, or play video games if you really want to do that. But it's also a place that maybe feels less intimidating for some newer artists who maybe they've never been in a studio that's not their bedroom before. So a lot of times I'll set up keyboards on the floor here and we'll just play and we'll just record onto a 4-track cassette and we'll just rock that way. I also will set up vocalists here a lot because sometimes they want to sing while they stare at a Beyoncé plaque. I also just like being here. This is like kind of where I usually start my day, getting my head in the zone of what I have to do, and end my day kind of trying to like think about what I need to do tomorrow after everyone's gone and like mics are set up and stuff, like kind of making a roadmap. So it is a bit of a sanctuary area for me. And I really like it. There's no real gear in here that's noteworthy except for these JBL L7 speakers, which are really impressive. Mastering engineer extraordinaire Dave Kutch gave them to me. These are the same models. I don't know if they're the exact units, but the ones that when he was working with Herb Powers, did Miseducation of Lauryn Hill and Biggie, Life After Death on. And the first thing I did, of course, is when I set them up, is listen to Miseducation of Lauryn Hill on the system. They pair pretty well with the Bryston. It's a good life. They sound great. And don't be deceived, they're not 3-ways, they're 4-ways. They have subs firing in as well. And they get loud, but nice, in a soft, gentle way. And let me tell you, Netflix sounds on them. Well, that's the tour of my studio, Rumours. If you want to reach out to me, you can check out my website, christabron.com, or hit me up at Tabnetic on Instagram if you want to ask me more about the gear or tell me that I'm crazy for having so much and I should probably sell it. All comments are welcome.